It's September 27th, 2015. The final episode of an anime called Gangsta finishes airing in Japan, and fans are asking the same question. When is season 2 coming out? 48 hours later, the studio behind the show files for bankruptcy. So how did one anime end up becoming the final drop that took down its own studio? To answer that, we need to go back to the year 2002. A group of producers from the legendary studio Sunrise, known for shows like Gundam and Cowboy Bebop, decided to start a brand new studio called Manglobe. So I just found out it's pronounced Manglobe, not Manglobe, and I will not re-record everything. So just please understand whenever I say Manglobe, I mean Manglobe. Well, yeah, let's continue with the video. The studio quickly built a reputation with shows like Samurai Champloo, which blended hip-hop culture with Edo period Japan, Ergo Proxy, a dark psychological cyberpunk mystery, and Michiko and Hachin, a Brazilian-inspired road trip adventure. Manglobe became known for high-budget animation, incredible soundtracks, and darker stories aimed at adults. At a time when many anime were made for kids, Manglobe specialized in seinen anime targeted towards adults. That identity helped them stand out in the industry, but it also created a problem that would slowly grow over time. Between 2011 and 2014, the foundation of the studio started to crack. Their shows were enjoyed by fans, but they weren't making enough money. In fact, they were losing money. Behind the scenes, Manglobe has built up a debt of around 350 million yen, which was roughly $3 million at that time. To survive, the studio started relying on a risky cycle where they used the budget of a new project to pay off the debts of a previous one. For many years, Manglobe was essentially borrowing from the future just to stay alive in the present. By 2015, the studio had reached a breaking point, and their final hope was an anime called Gangsta. This project became an all-or-nothing gamble. If the show became a massive success, it would have generated enough money to save the studio. If it failed, Manglobe would go bankrupt. Because of that, they poured everything they had into the production. The gritty crime setting, the dark atmosphere, and the unique art all carried the signature Manglobe style that the studio was known for. However, while the anime was still being produced, the financial situation inside the studio kept getting worse. If you look closely at the last 3 episodes of Gangsta, the animation quality begins to drop. This wasn't because the animators suddenly became worse, it was because the studio was running out of money while the show was still being made. Eventually, Manglobe could no longer pay its employees or continue operating. Just 48 hours after the final episode of Gangsta aired, the studio officially filed for bankruptcy. The collapse didn't just affect that one anime. Several projects were left unfinished, including the film Genocidal Organ, which had to be completed later by a brand new company called Geno Studio that was created only to finish that movie. Ironically, the story of Gangsta itself ended in a very similar way. The anime takes place in a city where the police and the mafia maintain a fragile and unstable truce. The story follows 2 main characters: Warwick, a gigolo with a photographic memory, and Nicholas, a deadly Twilight swordsman. Twilights are superhuman fighters created from a drug called Celebre. They are faster and stronger than normal humans, but their lives are much shorter, and the society treats them like second-class citizens, basically tools used for violence and war. The anime ends right when anti-Twilight hunters start an attack. Twilights are hunted down one by one, and characters are shown bleeding out, and the city begins to fall into chaos. Just as the conflict reaches its most intense moment, the story suddenly stops. The screen cuts to black and the anime never continued. Gangsta didn't just leave its characters trapped in the middle of a tragedy, it also became the final chapter in the story of a studio that created it. A story where one anime was the last drop that made everything fall apart. If you enjoyed this video, I highly recommend you to watch this video next. Thanks for watching and stay tuned, my friends.